All right, guys. Well, welcome to our Sunday Success Call. This is number 6 of 8. So we've got a few more left after this one. I know we got Ross is going to be facilitating one, and Molly Joseph is going to be facilitating one as well. Today is all about designing our own codes of excellence. And this is something that I've really wanted to do for a long time, but I've never done in all my years kind of practicing self-development and transformation. So I'm excited to do it here with you here today. And I think like having a code is so important in this lifetime because we've got so many external influences and pressures really coming from all directions, whether it's from the people in our lives, our parents, our family, our friends, or if it's from society and pop culture. And it's really easy to get out of alignment when we're not really practicing and living within our own codes. And I think it's times it's easy to forget who we are. I know for myself personally that one of my biggest challenges is that I'll focus in on a problem that I have, and then I'll over identify with the problem versus looking at really the whole picture. So we lose ourselves to find ourselves. And I think when we have a code and we have it written out, it's clean, we know exactly, we kind of have it laid out in terms of what our protocol is. Then when we find ourselves in challenging situations, then we can go right to our code, and perhaps that can be a great tool in terms of navigating through any stormy weather. So that's really the purpose of today, is to create our own codes. I don't know if anyone watched Dexter on Showtime, where I used to work, but Dexter had a code. And I think this is a funny example because Dexter was a serial killer. So Dexter only killed bad people, and that was kind of his code, is that if somebody else was doing a disjustice to other people, was killing other people, then Dexter gave himself permission to go out there and kill these people, these bad guys. So I wanted to give everybody the opportunity to create their own codes. So the way that this is going to work is we're going to probably spend like the first probably 15, 20 minutes here kind of doing some evoking exercises so we can really pinpoint some of our challenging spots and the things that are most important to us, the things that we're most proud of. So on the back end of the call, we're going to create our own codes in regards to some different areas of our lives. But the first part, like I said, is just going to be kind of like brainstorming, just putting down some of our hot buttons, some of our non-negotiables. And so when we get to the part of the code creation, the actual part of that, we're already going to have a better idea of what should be on that and what shouldn't be on that. Is that clear? Awesome. Okay, so go ahead and take out your pen and paper, and we'll get started here with our code creation. So the first thing that I'm going to have you guys do is just take like 1 to 2 minutes to journal what's most important to you. In other words, journal about what you give a fuck about. So just kind of jot down some things. These are the things that are most important to you, whether it's, it's family, it's doing your best, it's being a good friend, it's being responsive to texts and emails, whatever it might be. Like, what do you give a fuck about? Really, at the end of the day, what is most important to you? So go ahead and just take a minute or two to jot down some notes on this, and I'm going to do that as well. If you need more time, just go ahead and raise your hand. If not, we'll move on. So the next prompt to just keep us getting thinking here is want to hear your non-negotiables and what you pride yourself on. So what are your non-negotiables and what you pride yourself on? If you need more time, go ahead and raise your hand. All right. So the next thing, just to continue to get us thinking here, is what are the things that other people do that frustrate you? So what are the things that other people do that maybe drive you a little crazy? Maybe it is people telling you one thing and doing another. Maybe it's flakiness. Maybe it's not being completely open and honest and real with you. Maybe someone just talks about themselves all the time and doesn't ask questions. Waste your time. What are the things that other people do that drive you crazy? All right, we will move on to the next thing. What are the things that frustrate you about yourself? So, what are some of your own quirks, things that you do that frustrate you? Could be tied to an emotion, anger, feeling like you're guilting other people, you're being defensive, making excuses. Okay, we're going to move on to the next. What are some things that have gotten you in trouble in the past? Things that you've done, certain situations that have gotten you in trouble or have that kind of derailed you, have gotten you off track, where you found yourself like in a precarious position because of something that you tried to do. Maybe it was something tied to people pleasing. Maybe it was tied to a decision that you made to try to fit in. Maybe maybe it's tied to social drinking, whatever it may be. What are some things that you've done that have gotten you in trouble or have derailed you? I know for me, it's people pleasing. It's dealing with social anxiety and discomfort. It's when I have ulterior motives. Let's move on to the next one. What is definitely out of bounds for you? Like, what is 100% just you would absolutely never do? It is definitely on the other side of your line. What is out of bounds? Maybe it's cheating, stealing, violence, drugs. Verbal abuse. Okay, let's move on to the next one. We just got two more of these, and then we'll start digging into our codes. So the next one is, what positive impact do you want to have? So what kind of positive impact do you want to have? Just another way to get connected to what's most important to you, and when we're actually designing the code, to know what we really want to put in there, as that should be a big basis for our decision making. So what kind of impact do you want to have? Okay. And the last evoking question is, what conditions need to be present in order for you to do your best work and for you to be the best version of yourself? So what conditions need to be present? So this could be in terms of like your physical space, whether in your home or your workplace. Maybe it's the people around you, but what are the conditions that are going to really support you in being the best that you can be? All right, we ready to design our codes? Thumbs up. Cool. All right. So as we do this, this is definitely a working process. So I want to give you guys permission to just kind of let yourself flow with this. And what I would say is after this 1 hour call, to throughout this next week to go back to this and to write it out or type it out and to post it somewhere. So you have like a nice formal version of this. So give yourself permission to, to kind of craft this out. This is going to be a rough draft that you're able to revise into a nice, cleaner version of yourself, cleaner version that you can really have on your phone or, at your leisure whenever you find yourself in a situation when you want to, take a look at your code to remind yourself who you are or to help you navigate through a challenging decision that you have. So the way that we are going to look at these is we've got four different, or we've actually got 6 different areas that we're going to choose codes for. So the first one is your code for self-care. So you're going to design your code for self-care. It includes your health, your mindset, and your physical space. So it kind of piggybacks on that last one that we just did. But go ahead and spend a few minutes writing out what your code is for self-care. And I encourage you to be as specific as possible with this. So, this is your code. It can be something about like the kind of food that you put in your body. It can be in terms of your level of exercise. I mean, it's really whatever is going to make you like feel good in your skin so you can operate at the best. So, so go ahead and start writing that out. It could be about doing, yoga twice a week. It could be, in terms of like specific diet stuff, whatever is going to be really most clear for you to really know, like, all right, this is my go-to when I'm finding myself not taking that great care of my self-care. This is my code. So go ahead and spend a couple of minutes here writing out your code for self-care, which really takes into account your health, your mindset, your physical space. And feel free to reference anything from what you wrote down in those first like 15, 20 minutes. If there's anything that you feel like needs to be included in there. I know for me, for self care, there's things that bring me so much joy, like singing and dancing, and I don't do them every day. And it's such an easy thing to do to just put on music and get out of bed and have a little dance party. So let's go ahead and move on to the second thing because there are six. So I want to make sure that we have ample time for these. So feel free, after this call, if you want to go back and flush out more things on the list, get organized. You can pare it down to like 4 or 5 things. Whatever's going to best serve you. This is your code. So the second thing is your code for interpersonal relationships. So it's your code for interpersonal relationships. And the things that you can think about for your interpersonal relationships is, who do you want to be friends with? Like, what are the characteristics of someone that you want to be friends with? Or what do you want your code to be in terms of how you communicate, with other people? So in terms of, who you're friends with, it could be about people who are trustworthy, who are consistent, who make you smile, who are fun, who you want to in turn support. It can really be whatever you best deem fit, but it's a great idea to know that. I know for me, sometimes I'm friends with people just because they reach out to me, and it's not necessarily because like I'm making a conscious choice that that's someone who I want to be a big part of my life. So we're creating the code here about our interpersonal relationships, who we want to be friends with. And then as it comes to communication, if you want to put together a protocol as to like if someone texts you, your turnaround time and getting back to people, or if a protocol and just getting back to people in general. Maybe anyone who you deem to be a close friend, you'll guarantee to get back to them. Maybe someone who you don't deem to be a friend, you don't have to get back to them. So it's really up to you, but go ahead and create a code. So when you find yourself in a challenging situation, you can be like, this is my code, this is my protocol when it comes to who my friends are and how I communicate with other people. Perhaps you can have a code about being your word or being truthful or being open and honest. So go ahead and take a few minutes and feel free to utilize the bank of things that you wrote down in the first part of this call. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And the next one is, what is your code for your time management? What's your code for the way you spend your time? We good to move on to the next one? All right. The next one, number 4, is your code for decision making and problem solving. So your code for decision making and problem solving. And go ahead and think back to some of those times when you were frustrated with others, or you're frustrated with yourself, or maybe you derailed yourself. Use those as your basis. Perhaps when you find yourself in a situation again, what's your go-to? I know for me personally, when there's other people around me who maybe aren't living in line with my code, it's really easy for me to sacrifice my code and to not live it because nobody else is doing it. Other people aren't being honest. Other people aren't being helpful. So then I don't have to be honest and helpful, for example. It's a great basis to go back to, that it doesn't matter about our external influences and pressures, that will still live up to our code. Or if you've got a tough decision that you got to make, what are the factors that you want to consider when making that decision? All right, let's move on to the next one. That is, how would you treat yourself when you screw up? So, what is your code as to how you'll treat yourself when you screw up or you're maybe not exactly happy with your behavior or a decision you made? So, for me, just to be the basis, I put take responsibility for whatever I did, to forgive myself about it, not to over identify, to accept whatever the outcome is in the current situation. Maybe if I've, like injured myself as a result of a poor decision, that I'll accept the current situation so I can operate from that place versus from a place of, frustration, and then recommit as to how I'm going to proceed moving forward. And if I ever find myself in that kind of situation again. So that's what I put for that. And then moving on to the last one, and that is, what is your code for rewarding yourself? What is your code for rewarding yourself? I know it's something that, what I've learned with Winning Weeks and supporting people, that oftentimes we're just moving on to the next problem and don't necessarily give ourselves the proper credit where praise is due, or we focus pretty much exclusively on problems and not on the full picture of all the abundance that's everywhere. So go ahead. What is your code for celebrating yourself? All right, guys. Thank you so much for that. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Any reflections? Anything anything that came up or that you want to share here as we wrap up this call? Yes, no? Gerard, did you want to share something?
Yeah. So one of my code for rewarding myself is to have a dance party and to just take that time to be free and to connect with my body and music and do that. Well, it's not something that's self-care for me. It's definitely something I enjoy as a celebration.
Oh, I was on mute. Sorry about that. Cool. Thank you for sharing, Gerard. I was like talking for a while. Franco, anything you wanna share from as a result of the exercise today?
Hear me?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, just as I was going through it, I realized that I could, I, I need to, I definitely want to take advantage of like the instructions you said at the beginning of like the revisiting this and kind of like fleshing it out a little bit more because I realized that I have so many things that, like I've read and I've studied a lot about what like proper self-care would be and that I just haven't taken enough time to actually like really sit with each idea and really feel on what's resonating with me the most. I have a lot of things down that maybe don't exactly like well, for instance with self care I've got a couple different ideas that I put down that may be in conflict with each other and so I really need to take more time to learn who I am and what my real desires are. That was a big takeaway. Is I need to. I've spent so much of my life like trying to get stuff done and trying to do things instead of focusing on what I want to be or become. So that was really eye opening for me. The other thing was that I definitely need to do more as far as like rewarding myself. I like you mentioned, oftentimes we're doing something like we finish something and then we move on to the next thing without giving ourselves the proper time and the proper acknowledgement to really like enjoy what we're doing. And so I learned that's definitely something I need to do. And I love exercises like this that make you recognize how much more work you need to do for yourself because it can only get better if you take action. And that's something that I value about calls like this is that the more that I learn about what I'm not and what I can still become, like that excites me. So those are the big takeaways I took from today's call.
Cool. Franco, beautiful share, brother. Really, really appreciate it. For me, like the two things that kept coming up are in regards to creating boundaries. Sometimes the people pleaser within me and the self beat upper, like those guys are driving the car, of my life. And I'm really committed to having boundaries. So like I really am surrounding myself with people that I truly want to be spending my time with, together with making decisions that are really in line with my highest excitement, and just making decision making the decision that is in line with being the bigger person, and I'm proud of myself afterwards for making that decision. And sometimes I don't think from that perspective. Also, being responsive and not reactive in decision making, not just doing the automatic. Someone pays me a compliment, like actually like allowing myself to receive it, versus feeling the need to do the boomerang effect. So thank you guys for this little introspective call today. Always so valuable for me as well. So I appreciate you, and continue to work with these throughout the week. And we'll see you. We actually don't have a call next weekend because it's Memorial Day weekend. So the last two of these calls will be taking place after Memorial Day, and then we'll be sending you guys all sorts of bonus content over the next month on the weekly. So if you have any questions, let us know. But have a beautiful week. So much love.
Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
Mark.
Have a wonderful week.
Adios. Take care.
Bye.